So we put, I lost the marker already. There we go. We put the number 2 Reformation up here on our on the top left corner of your timeline. We are going to use a whole bunch of different colors in this, so you guys are going to be happy unless I lost my timeline sheet. There we go. This is what it's going to look like. It's going to be relatively packed, so try not to write too big. The clusters for Reformation are a little bit similar. What ultimately why do we care about the Reformation? What's our big box idea up here? You're going to draw the triangle and you're going to draw an X through it, right? The reason you're going to do that is because we are ultimately here destroying the feudal system, all right? We are taking it down. We are targeting primarily the nobles, but we are targeting primarily the priests, but in the process of that, we are going to strengthen the kings and strengthen the nobles and some other steps. What else can you write up there? You could write secularism. It feels weird to say that for Protestantism, a religious movement, but I think you can draw some comparisons. The better answer is humanism. Write humanism up there in your in the cluster box up top. Reason being, a lot of the Protestant ideas, like Martin Luther and the priesthood of all believers, right? We're taking power, the special power, away from individual priests, and we're giving it to regular people, everyday you and us people, because humans have value, humans can think, humans are intelligent, humans have worth. Okay, so over here, you don't need to make this list. At the very least, I'd draw a 1 and circle it because that's your color. I do think the colors help you cluster this information. You'll see dead set what I mean when we're done with this timeline. So even if you trade colors with somebody else, even if you go from pencil to pen, I don't care. But I do ask that you use different colors if you can. So number 1, we're just going to write the printing press. And, our dates. 1300. Real quick soon after it, let's do 1400, and then, nope. Oh man, we already ruined it. Oh, you're gonna have to throw it out and start over again. Let's start with 1400, very soon after it, let's do 1500, and then towards the end, do 1600, okay? We're gonna put the printing press on here first. We put it right here in the middle of the 1400s where it was invented. Last time we put it on the timeline, what did we write with it? We spread new ideas, right? More literacy. People can accept new ideas. We also wrote down vernacular, which plays a key role here too. You can write that down. But this time when we write printing press, we're going to highlight where it's invented. Germany, which keep in mind, Germany is not a country yet. Germany is a part of what larger conglomerate? The Holy Roman Empire ruled by the Habsburgs. Why do we care that the printing press was invented in Germany on this timeline? Because we see the effects in Germany more quickly. It's not a coincidence that 60 to 70 years after the printing press is invented, we have our start of the Protestant Rev. And that is Martin Luther's 95 Theses. Write the actual date, 1517. It's one of our Uber dates. Those are the list of 95 complaints that Martin Luther had about the Roman Catholic Church. All right, so our 95 Theses. So above this, let's put a little box about halfway. So if you get the box all the way up here, leave me a little bit of room underneath that box, and then leave me a whole bunch of room right here. So right about here, let's draw a little thing like this and call it the Protestant Reformation. The Protestant Reformation, let's talk about the key players. We know obviously Luther. He comes first. He's the trendsetter. He's the guy who starts it and sparks it. But the later on we get, the more guys we get here, the more radical it becomes. Do you know the other guy that's a key concept on here? John Calvin. When you talk about John Calvin, he has a little bit more radical beliefs. He believes famously in predestination. The all-powerful God has already decided how our lives will go. But the key concept, most important point about Calvin is he did what? You remember? Geneva. In Geneva, Switzerland, he set up a model community. Somewhat in line with Thomas More's Utopia. It was a theocracy. It had strict, religious beliefs that were legal beliefs, right? So the moral police were the real police in Geneva, Switzerland under John Calvin. There's one group at the end that I don't know why it's a key concept, but it is, so we mentioned it. Do you remember the group that comes very late? The Anabaptists. The Anabaptists believed that infant baptism was invalid. Those people didn't choose to be baptized. They didn't choose to admit God and Christ in their life, so they only accept adult baptism. That's what makes them, I guess, a little bit more radical. But if you ever write the word Luther on a short answer or real test, you're going to write his quote. What's his quote? Faith alone, grace alone, Scripture. Scripture alone, right? What he's doing with that is he's taking the power away from the priests. He's removing their all-seeing power. They're all matched. Remember, the symbol of the Pope is two keys crossed over each other, because the Pope holds the keys to the church on earth, and he holds the keys to heaven. You cannot get into heaven without a priest in Roman Catholicism, right? Especially at the time. But Luther is arguing, no. All you need to get to heaven is faith, right? Priests aren't special. They're still human beings made in God's image. Below this, off to the left, give me about a third of the space down here. Let's write new beliefs. And we should have mentioned it when we started Martin Luther, but we'll put it here. What was his complaints about the Roman Catholic Church? And stop, it's not spin. Can you summarize them in one word? What was his primary complaint with the Roman Catholic Church at the time? Corruption is good. Corruption of who? The clergy, the priests. Do you know the fancy word for anti-clergy? It's anti-clericalism. That's a key concept. Anti-clericalism means he has a problem with the ecclesiastical, right? The nature of the clergy and the structure of the church. More specifically, write them down even though you know them. Simony, pluralism, / pluralism / absenteeism, indulgences, and nepotism. Simony with our $ is the buying and selling of church offices. If you wanted to have a priest, which was an important position because you could collect your own taxes, make your own laws. Do you remember corvée used in France, the work tax? So you would buy that position even if you weren't qualified. Pluralism is you could be a priest in multiple dioceses, but the problem with that is it leads to absenteeism because you're only going to show up to the diocese of the church that pays you the most money, meaning a whole bunch of people don't have a priest in their life, which means a whole bunch of people don't get to go to heaven. Indulgences, the buying and selling, buying off of sins. We know what that is, and nepotism is hiring family, okay? So your father was a priest, he dies, and he gives the priesthood to you. Even if you're a complete degenerate, can't read and can't talk, you still get that job. Other things for new beliefs are, well, let's put the changes. The changes by Martin Luther, what he primarily focuses on, okay? The big term they might use is instead of having a clergy that controls the keys to heaven, the clergy that controls the Bible, right? What's one of the first things Martin Luther does when he's in prison? Translates the Bible into vernacular, in this case German, but once it's in a normal people talk, an Italian Bible, a French Bible, an English Bible shows up within years. This allows everybody to control their own key into heaven. He will use the term priesthood of all believers. Priesthood of all believers, right? Again, lessening the role of clergy, destroying our triangle of the feudal system. And then the other 2 points he makes are kind of repeats from before, but for salvation, which means how you get to heaven. How do you get to heaven, according to Martin Luther? Faith alone, grace alone, Scripture alone, right? All you need is a Bible, living a good life, and having a relationship with God. So faith alone, grace alone. And the authority in the Roman Catholic Church, the clergy has authority, the Pope has authority, the church in general has the authority to make sacraments and whatnot based on church tradition. According to Martin Luther, the only authority in existence is the Bible. The Bible specifically, so Scripture. Again, faith alone, grace alone, Scripture alone sums up all of this. Switch colors.
One announcement. This is just a reminder to all the track kids that are going to Harrison. Because of bus issues, you will be getting out of school at 2:30, and we've got to be on the road by 2:45. Again, track students going to Harrison, you are out at 2:30.
All right. So this.
Announcement. make sure you purchase them. The site goes down. You won't be able to purchase on Monday at midnight. All right.
He drags it out.
Still, there we go. So, next color, if you so desire, number 2. The impact of Martin Luther is pretty widespread. A whole bunch of people leave the church. Luther has a sincere argument that the church is corrupt because it is. So, eventually the church has to respond to it. They respond to it immediately with like imprisoning Martin Luther and whatnot, but that doesn't work. So, our second color is the Counter-Reformation. Sometimes called the Catholic Reformation, right? They mean the same thing. It's the Catholic Church responding to the Protestant Reformation. Now, what is the thing that is the Catholic Reformation? What's the Council of Trent? Good. Pope Paul III eventually calls everybody together in the Council of Trent. Again, not a date you need to memorize, but based on what you know and what's on the board, when do you think the Council of Trent was?
Not that long after 1517.
When would you guess, CJ? 1520. 3 years for the whole of the continent and the clergy to change? It's going to be too soon, right? 1533, a better guess. The answer is 1545 to 1555. Again, not something you need to know, but 1520 is going to be way too soon, right? 1650 is going to be way too late. So, put our Council of Trent right over here, somewhere around that area. This is Council of Trent. And within the Council of Trent, the Catholic Church has 2 things it needs to do. Number 1, it needs to stop the bleeding. It needs to stop people from leaving. So what do? Number 1, they fix spin, right? They stop to some degree simony, pluralism, indulgences, and nepotism, right? Again, Luther's criticisms were accurate. If they weren't accurate and didn't have meaning, people wouldn't have left. The other thing they do, the other way to stop people from following Martin Luther is to... What's the key concept word? It's going to be censorship, but they specifically list the index of prohibited books. Okay. This allows the Catholic Church to stop the bleeding, to stop people from turning en masse to Protestantism. Now, on the other half, when you get a cut and you've lost half your blood, you then need to inject more blood into your body. Okay? And how are they going to do it? Well, luckily, again, as we get further in the timelines, you'll see how they overlap. But luckily for the church, do you know what happened right here? It's not religious, but it has an impact. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, discovered the New World, and expanded the size of the globe. Therefore, one of the things they can do to bring in new members is to create missionaries. Now, they are going to use the term religious orders. If you ever see the term religious orders, it is referring to groups of men and women, nuns and monks or priests. And it's all, in this class, it's going to mean Council of Trent. We know the specific religious orders. The most famous one is Jesuits. And their founder is a key concept, Loyola. The women are the Ursuline Order of Nuns, or just Ursuline nuns, you'll know. And then one more I don't mention as much, but I want to at least write her name on the board, is Saint Teresa. Saint Teresa of Avila. Again, if a saint is on your test, it probably means Protestant Reformation, and it's probably a Catholic saint. So this allows them to bring new leaders in. Next color, if you so desire. This is the big one. 4. This is state conflict. It's 3. I wrote 4 because it's 4 on my list. You can write whatever you want. So, state conflict. First off, of all that, you can give me whatever space you got for the whole bottom, you can give me state conflict. For Spain. Spain doesn't have any trouble with the Protestant Reformation. Why?
Super Catholic.
And what's our proof of that on this timeline? Before the Reformation even started, what did Spain do right here?
Find the New World.
Spanish Inquisition. Spanish Inquisition. They targeted everybody that wasn't Catholic, Jews and Muslims specifically, and had them tortured, converted, or killed. right? So there aren't exactly a lot of Protestants showing up in Spain when the Protestant Revolution takes over the rest of Europe. And that's important because the king of Spain is going to marry a woman from another country, right? He also has what in his back pocket?
The New World.
A lot of boats.
Spanish Armada.
Or an armada. Very good. That's what we're getting to. So Spain, we'll just put a frowny face, the Spanish Inquisition. The other one, which country had the most trouble with the Protestant Reformation?
France.
The Holy Roman Empire. Why do we know they had the most trouble? Because they don't exist anymore, in no small part because of the Protestant Revolution. The Holy Roman Empire is led by what family? The Habsburgs. They're tied really closely to the Pope. They demand Catholicism in their country, and yet the Protestant Reformation springs up in their own backyard and spreads throughout their country faster than any other country because that's the origin, that's the printing press, that's the vernacular, and everything else that we've talked about. They try to violently put it down, but eventually they have to give up, okay? And in 1555, right here, they issue what? The Peace of Augsburg. The Peace of Augsburg made Protestantism legal in the Holy Roman Empire. The Habsburgs conceded that. They allowed it to be legal just as a last-ditch hope that it could keep their country together. And it does for the short term, but not for the long term. It's the first time that Protestantism becomes legal. Next country on our list is England. England. Let's draw this remaining space right here above the Council of Trent. We don't need much room, but let's go a little bit into the 1500s, and it's going to go right to here. And what is the family name that we have on the board here? Tudors. There are 3 Tudors that we care about. 2 are key concepts. The first guy, of course, we know is Henry VIII. Henry VIII was King of England. He had a problem in that he thought his marriage was cursed, so he asked for divorce when the Pope wouldn't give him because of family ties and invasion at the time, doesn't matter. He decided to break away and create his own religion. So Henry VIII created what? The Church of England, or the Anglican religion. Beliefs are incredibly similar, especially at its creation, to Roman Catholicism, but still its own church, with its own hierarchy. It does not recognize the Pope or any of the old clergy as having any authority. The king is now the head of the church. So that's a little bit of increasing his power. All right, that's great for him. When he dies, his son takes over, and then his son immediately dies, but his oldest daughter takes over after that. And his oldest daughter, what's her nickname? Bloody Mary, is called that because her husband is from Spain, the same family that instituted the Spanish Inquisition, and the most super Catholic of super Catholic families. So he and Bloody Mary went on essentially a process of violence against Protestantism in England for, I want to say, 5 to 10 years. But good for the world, Bloody Mary dies. Then Henry VIII's youngest daughter, born after the Anglican Church was created, comes to power. Her name is Elizabeth the First. Now, Elizabeth I is somebody we spent a whole lot of time on, so I know we don't need to review her that heavily, but let's hit the key points. In the end, why is Elizabeth such a significant person in history? Yes. Number 1, that's close, but this goes above all else, stability. You can write religious tolerance under that, because that's ultimately what we're talking about. England gets stability between the religions better and faster than most other countries. That's why she puts them in place to become the dominant power in Europe and the world for centuries after them. All right? It's not a coincidence that, 4 years after her death, in 1607, England establishes Jamestown. They're in a better position than France, than Spain, than anybody else to do this. I do for Elizabeth, I want you to put her dates. 1558 to 1603. Not a lot of dates on these timelines, but some that we should know. And I did such a good job of teaching Elizabeth that as soon as I said her name, what are you picturing? She's standing there with her hand on the globe. Behind her are 2 windows. One is bright and sunny on the Spanish Armada, and then they go through the Protestant wind, remember? And the Spanish Armada is all screwed up and destroyed. So you can write Armada for her, And I don't know if you know this, but she was a woman. One of the first major female rulers in modern European history, and a good one. And one of her highlights is a military victory, which of course makes her stand out. This is a big... Ooh! Next country. Where are we at here? France. Give me a little more space under France. In France, they had John Calvin's Geneva right next door. They had the Holy Roman Empire and Martin Luther next door to them. So there were a whole bunch of French Protestants. What was the name for them? Huguenots. So many of them, they get their special name. Most of them were Calvinists because Geneva is basically in France. But so they have a whole lot of religious tension. The two people that we care about here are the woman, the matriarch of the family, and then her son, the king. Catherine de' Medici. She was old school. She tried to be kind of a hardcore Catholic for the most realm, but you don't even know all that. Her son, though, is more important. Henry IV. Now, one day, Henry IV got married. To get married, he chose a festival day. Which festival day? Saint Bartholomew. What that gave us was the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. If you have space in your timeline, it was about 1570. So when a whole bunch of Catholics rolled in and killed a whole bunch of Protestants, France fell into chaos for a long time, and France could have ceased to exist, just like the Holy Roman Empire, but luckily the king is a smart man, and in 1598, he passes their version of the Peace of Augsburg. In France, it's called what? Edict of Nantes. There's one more section. Switch colors if you can. We'll go quickly. I have enough time. 5, 6, 17, let's call it morality. If you have any space above in the center here, please put it up here. But if it's not really there, that's okay. It's not a big deal. Okay? I don't really know where to fill these key concepts in. So what do I call it? I called it just morality. Specifically, people start to believe society has loose morals. They mention again John Calvin's Geneva. Because usually loose morals aren't a big deal as far as the government is concerned. But if your government is also run by priests, if it's run by religion, that means that a sin is therefore illegal. So even minor sins, though not dangerous to society, if they go against the morality of the religion you're in, you can be thrown in jail, you can be arrested. Who are the targets of most of these sins?
Catholics?
No. You got a 50-50 shot. Women. So how do we go after women? Witch hunts. The 1400s into the 1500s is the era of witch hunts for Europe. Okay, most of it is loosely based around religion and punishment for amoral behavior. That is it. Thank you for your time. Good night.